We live in a time where masculinity is shamed and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo podcast. I'm your host, Jason Valen. Welcome back to the BraveCo podcast, everyone. I'm excited. This week's going to be great. I have a guy with us that I have been wanting to meet for a long time. I'm really close with his dad and really close with his mom as well. And out of his dad and mom, his mom's definitely the better of the two, for sure. Beth, you're amazing. But Graham, welcome to the BraveCo podcast, man. It's really cool to have you on here. I'm excited to talk about your life. You right now are the co-founder of Vessel Training Company, and basically you guys build like clothing and apparel, and are in the like Christian athletic world. I'm going to have you explain it a little bit, but you also you spent the last 5 years at Garden of Life, which is Nestle Health Science, driving innovation and R&D and all that kind of stuff, which we're going to press into a little bit here. But man, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. A pleasure to be here and really excited to dive into this conversation.
Well, I would ask you a lot about your childhood and dive into that. I mean, that's a lot of like, normally I get guests on here and they're like, my childhood was horrible. My parents were abusive. My dad left me at 5. My mom was crazy. But bro, that story just wouldn't fly here. Like, I know that that's not the truth about your family.
You're 100% right. I grew up with an amazing mom and dad, which, you guys have plenty of interactions together. So you can see firsthand that they're the best.
Yeah. Your mom told me she breastfed you till you were like 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, well, that's news to me.
I'm just kidding, man. No, you have the best parents. Your dad's just such a close friend of mine, and he's helped out BraveCo a lot. I mean, when I first met him, I was just like, who's this Tim guy that I'm meeting? And we had a mutual connection through Chick-fil-A corporate. And so I sat down, met with your dad here, and then your brother was there as well for the conversation. And it was just so cool, man. I started sharing about BraveCo, and he's like, dude, how can I help? That's not usually what happens. Usually I have to like pitch it to him. He was like, how can I help? Oh, I have this tent you guys can use. I got to get you to Florida. We got to do all this stuff. Your dad's incredible. And then I met your mom, and man, she's just so cool. So anyways, it's awesome to meet all of you guys. I've met your brothers now, and to meet you is great. But I wanted to have you on the podcast to talk through what you've been doing the last 5 years, 6 years of your life. And I always like to get just a mix of guests, like some guests who have been alive for a long time. I had like the original Wolf of Wall Street on our podcast, and, I'd been through all kinds of crazy stuff. And then I like to have you on here because you're a young entrepreneur starting out life, but grinding and going for it. And so thanks, man, so much for coming on.
Yeah, no, super excited. So, you said it well for, my parents and the impact that they've had in my life. And I think I wouldn't be who I am today without them. And my dad, as you know, firsthand, is like just one of the kindest people, regarding like never out for himself or self-interest, but always putting others first. And, that's what I've kind of tried to model my life as, is just trying to, wherever I can add value and help, try to step into that.
That's great, man. I love it. Take me through a little bit of where you got your entrepreneurial spirit from, and then why you started your company.
I came out of the womb as an entrepreneur. And I think that's how a lot of people are. But I remember back in elementary school being the kid that would like sell my lunch on the bus and come home with more money from school than I left with. And like if I go on a field trip, I would literally, like, my mom would give me $20 and I would come back with 50. That was just kind of the mentality that I've always had. And not that I have a desire and love of money, but just the game and the grind itself just like brings me joy and gets me excited. So it came out of that. And then ever since then, I've been having entrepreneurial ideas left or right, and always the concept and the idea, never the action. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until this last year that I was like, hey, you know what? I'm so young in my life. I have so much to look forward to, but like if I don't start taking action on this season of my life, then it's going to pass me by. And so I started to make a commitment to myself that every year for the rest of my life, I'm going to make one major investment. And
Mm.
so this past year, that investment was to start a company. So each
Wow.
year it can be anything from starting a company to purchasing a home to anything that can significantly add value to where I'm at. So this past year, we launched Vessel Training Co. And it was a big endeavor and like an awesome just relief to finally put one of these ideas into action. And the whole idea behind Vessel Training Co. is that your body is your vessel and you only have one of them, right? So how do you maximize that today to create the outcome of tomorrow? We're an athleisure brand built around the idea of stewarding, like stewardship and stewarding your body. And so it goes back to 1 Corinthians 16:19. It actually says, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you are bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. And I remember back, I was working for this company called Garden of Life, big vitamin supplement company down in South Florida. And I was talking to one of our educators who went around the country just helping people understand the nutritional system and value and how to take care of their bodies. And we had a conversation one day that really just stuck with me about the importance of taking care of your body and how you only have one of these. And
Yeah.
if you do not take care of it today, you will not be able to live the life that you want to live tomorrow. More importantly, though, you will not be able to impact people for Jesus in the same way you would if you weren't stewarding what God's given you. And that just like sat deep within me. And little did I know that like 3 years later, I would be starting this athleisure brand built around that exact concept. And so it's like I've always been passionate about fitness and taking care of my body, my vessel. But it wasn't until setting out into this community of an athleisure brand where in Nashville, especially, we've really tried to tap into what God's doing here in this city. And if you've never been to Nashville or familiar with the fitness scene here, I mean, you've never seen so many run clubs in your life.
Is it
You
a
got
pretty
run clubs,
a mean fitness scene?
a mean fitness scene. We've got run clubs and CrossFit and like Pilates and all these different things. And what we noticed across the board is that fitness can be very polarizing. It's very like you find your niche and then you stay in there, and any other fitness aspect, you're kind of like against it. And we're like, why would it be that way? It shouldn't be that way, So our goal has been to bridge the gap between fitness communities and say, hey, we're all trying to go after the same goal just in different ways, but we're all trying to maximize our vessels and steward them for what God's doing. And so we've done that here in Nashville for the past year, doing these different community events. And so we've done everything from a 5K to just like a HIIT workout to one of the last ones we did. It was teams of 5, all guys pushing and pulling a car. And so just a
That's cool.
wild adventure of, trying to think outside the box and one, push people to actually join in on this mission of stewarding their bodies, but two, like bridging this gap between the fitness communities and like, I don't really care what you're doing as long as you're getting outside and being active and moving your body in a way that's going to like help you live longer and do the things that God's created you to do.
That's rad, man. So when it comes to like starting the brand and the company, because that's a big deal, everybody has ideas. I mean, everybody ideas are one, they're free and they're cheap and It's great. I love ideas, but to actually move an idea into action is tough. It's
Yeah.
really tough. I guess where did you start? Like what was your starting place for, okay, I got this idea of, an apparel and what's your next step?
We started out,
You say
I got,
we. Who's we?
yeah, sorry. There is a co-founder behind this whole mission. His name is Spencer Grubbs. And so Spencer comes from a college football background. So he was in recruiting at college football for Tennessee, Arkansas State, Old Dominion, Austin P, all these different schools, and had just been involved in the other side of like fitness and athletics, and sporting teams. And so we both kind of got into CrossFit at the same time. And Spencer and I, like, if you've ever been a part of the CrossFit community,
I
it's a little bit of
have.
a it's a little bit of a cult, but we love it. So we got
Bro,
really
I
sucked.
I I actually stopped doing CrossFit because after every single workout, I'd just be up against the wall, like dying. And then I have to go do my whole day. So yeah. I'm admitting that I was too weak for it.
No, not too weak, just different priorities. So
Hey.
the Spencer and I, we started that. We started doing CrossFit together, really got sucked into the community. And you really like spend a lot of time there. Or like, hey, how can we do something with this? How can we add more value to the community that we're in? And we are part of a house church together in Nashville for young adults, has about 50 young adults that meet every Monday night for the past 2.5 years. And one of the guys in the group actually moved out to Hawaii. And so, you know, we're always looking for excuses to go to Hawaii. So we packed up the bags and went out there. And on that trip, we were climbing the Stairway to Heaven. I don't know if you're
Yep.
familiar with that trail,
Absolutely.
but it is like one of the most beautiful treks you can ever do. And just on that hike, we have hours to just think and talk. And we threw around this idea of Vessel Training Co. And it just like stuck. And we're like, we need to do something with this. And like that was the moment on that trip to Hawaii on the Stairway to Heaven that we came up with the idea to start an athleisure brand called Vessel Training Co. Um, and from that point, we got the domains and everything like that. And then when we got back, we started mixing up some designs. And so if you can see here on my little shirt here,
Bro, I'm on your website right now.
he's on it. We've got the actual V is it's a bone. And so the idea is that it's a call back to the body is what your vessel is all about. And just encouraging people to get out there to maximize the vessel today to create the outcome tomorrow. And it's like, if you want to be playing with your grandkids when you're 70 and fit and active and like living a good life, you don't start at 69, but you start today.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it came from and how we got into it.
Bro, that's cool. So y'all partnered up. Um, uh, how did you figure out what kind of clothing you wanted to do?
That's a great question. So we went around the idea of like where do you add value? It's kind of the question we kept coming to. And like, are we gonna beat Lululemon and Nike and Under Armour with the materials that we're making of our products? And we're like, no, I don't think we can. It's like what factor do we have that attracts people to us compared to these competitors? And we just decided we're not going to be competing with those guys and getting better materials, but we're going to be the stuff that you can wear to the gym and from the gym, the athleisure aspect of it. And if you want to work out in it, like great, like go for it. But that's not necessarily what our materials are made for. And we partnered. I had a buddy who owned a screen printing shop, and we worked with him and came up with the right materials that we thought fit the vibe that we wanted to go for, and just went from there. And so started out with a really small handful of t-shirts and like kind of went to all of our family and friends and said, hey,
Yeah.
this. And then, we're still at the point where just trying to get anybody that was living and breathing to buy a shirt. So, it was nice, and everyone supports you from your local community. And then slowly we've started to expand and go into different live events, whether that's competitions or races or different things like that. We found are great ways to just expand where we're at as a brand.
That's cool, man. What do you feel like's been the biggest challenge for you guys?
In any startup, there are so many challenges. It's tough to list them, but
Well, maybe I should say like, what was really unexpected? What was
what
the
was
unexpected challenge? Yeah.
I think the unexpected challenge that people maybe they talk about it, maybe they don't, but it's just the importance of communication when you have a co-founder, when you have somebody like at the outset, like, yes, everything aligns. We're starting an athleisure brand. We all have the same vision and like mission behind what we think we're doing. And then you get down to the nitty gritty details and you're like, wait a second, I think we're actually like a little farther off than like I would have thought, And
Yeah.
the same way in like any relationship, you get married and you think you're like the exact same person, or then you get to actually know somebody and you're like, wait, we actually differ on things more than I thought. And it's been a great like challenge, but also like an awesome lesson and learning experience for me. Like just to be able to work with somebody and find ways to still be successful and find like a median between both of us that like, hey, this is a happy path for us to take. And yeah, so grateful for that experience for sure.
That's cool, man. Yeah. It reminds me of when one of my sons, I won't out him completely, was, was, was thinking about leaving the house, and, he ended up moving out, which was awesome, but I remember having those conversations with him and he's like, it's going to be so easy. I'm just going to, save loads of money. And, um, like he had this idea that living on his own and moving out and, was going to be just so simple, and
Yeah,
he was going to buy a house and rent it back to some friends. And, and then you get out and you start doing that kind of stuff and you're like, holy cow, this is way harder
yeah,
than what I thought. And you have to grind way more. And it's what I've experienced with BraveCo. Like you think that it's going to be easier than it is. You think people are going to buy stuff, you know, selling's going to be way easier than it really is. And so everything's inflated. At least in my mind, everything was kind of inflated. And I had to come back down to like, okay, if this is going to be successful, I'm going to have to work for it. Like I'm going to have to hustle for this and put a bunch of time, effort, and energy into it. And that to me was like, it was pretty shocking at first to figure that out. Yeah.
yeah.
So are you still working at Nestle?
So recently, in the last couple of weeks, I've actually transitioned out of working for Nestle. And in preparation for one day stepping 100% fully into Vessel Training Co. and entrepreneurship, I kind of like looked at myself in a mirror and I said, what tools do I need to be successful in my future? And, in a short term, it's like, I could just hop like right in and bootstrap this thing. And I mean, I am bootstrapping this thing, but uh, what I like after getting advice from mentors and different people that have been there and done that, the best uh, recommendation that I continue to receive was like continue to refine the skills that you have in the season to prepare you for what's to come. And
What's
that's
that
what I'm doing.
practically look like?
So for me, it was like identifying what skill do I lack that I'm going to need to have to be successful. And one of the things I've never stepped into is like sales. And
Wow.
so I am now working for a company called the Robertet Group, which is based out of the south of France, been around for 180 years, this family owned company.
Wow.
Um, and just like great history. And it's an ingredient supplier for the Garden of Life's Nestle Health Sciences of the world. And so just it's very similar to what I was doing, but on the other side of the business. And so it's allowed me to maintain the relationships and connections that I've like been growing for the past 5 years, but also to step into creating this new skill that like is going to be critical for me to learn and be successful in, to take that next step in whatever God has next for me.
That's cool. So you jumped into sales.
Jumped into sales. Long story
Wow.
short, when you put it like that.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, I mean, I just love that so much that you're looking at your life and breaking it down really simply. What am I going to need in the future to be successful, and where do I go find that?
Yeah.
That's a that's such a great way to approach life. I mean, how do you lose when you do that?
Yeah.
How have you found sales? Have you started yet?
I have started.
Yeah. Are you getting your
And
butt kicked?
I'm not getting my butt kicked. I mean,
Good.
it's a combination of sales and account management and things like that. But I think the thing that I've learned the most so far is kind of it's not a one size fits all approach for
Yeah.
sales. One is really about the relationships and network that you have and building trust with people to take that next step and partnering with us, but also like what the approach has been is like volume negates luck. And so if you're consistent enough in the things that you're doing and you continue to put in the volume of work that's needed, like you will create a successful outcome eventually. It's just a matter of time. So like, yeah, you could get lucky right off the bat, like beginner's luck, but like if
Yeah.
you're actually putting in work and like good volume, then you will find success. It's only a matter of time.
Well, I think that's a really good point. And it works with any area of our life.
Yeah.
Um, is it's that saying that most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years, right? And
Yeah.
it's this thought that like if you put your full effort and energy into investing and investing and investing and investing, eventually you're going to get a return, a big return on those investments that you've made. And I've seen that a lot in marriages. I mean, I've spent the last 20 years of my life working with and counseling married couples and, addicts and all different kinds of people. But I see it in marriages a lot is people come into marriage and their marriage isn't great. They have a lot of challenges and problems. And it's like, well, if you try to grow 1% better, just once a month or every 6 months, or I mean, eventually that compounds. Eventually you're 10% better, and eventually you're 20% better and 30% better. And especially if you go into it with the mindset that you have, like what skill set is keeping me from really being successful in this area? How do I invest in that? And
Yeah.
that's the type of drive that you have to have if you're going to look 10 years, 20 years down the line and really be thankful for the time where you spent your time, effort, and energy. And I really love that, man. Your approach is awesome. You clearly have some great mentors in your life, and will be successful at this. What do you feel like is the next big challenge for you with Vessel? Like, what are you up against that you have to solve?
I think it's really easy to get lost in having a large funnel approach to any kind of business. And you have to start somewhere. And I think that's the thing that I kept getting caught up on for taking that step into entrepreneurship was like I wanted it to be perfect. And there comes a point we just need to take that step and start refining it as you go. And that applies in so many areas of life. But I think for Vessel in this season, it's about really refining and getting in at the target market and audience of who our brand relates to and who we inspire. And so if that's what we're created to do, like as a brand is to go out and inspire people to take care of their bodies and their vessels, then we need to find out who needs to hear that message and tell it to them repeatedly and get them involved and invested in the community that we're building.
That's cool, man. Yeah, that's a lot of work. I mean, getting people to buy in is right. It's massive, but that's great. What a cool endeavor, man.
Yeah. You guys probably experienced something similar with BraveCo and continue in this process of growing your
Yeah.
community and your reach in that aspect.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time in that, a lot of time through social media, through our events that we do, but getting guys to, I think for us, it's getting guys to admit where they're really at,
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to try something that's challenging, that requires a commitment in order to better their life. So, I mean, that's a lot of what we offer. Even our stuff's free, right? So guys can jump on to our braveco.org and they can start in, the foundations of masculinity or the sexuality and relationships course, phase 1 or phase 2. And like, there's so much proof that what we're doing works. And yet it's still hard, right? To get guys to make that decision, that commitment that this is where I want my life to go. And at the same time, like, I'm watching guys every day make that decision. And it's really interesting. Like, if you give yourself to something for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
like the amount of transformation. I mean, think about it. If you're like, I'm going to give myself 6 months to get better at push-ups. I'm going to give myself 6 months to get like my eating in order. And all I'm going to do is do whatever I have. Like, I'm only going to eat stuff that's healthy for me. Right. And if you stick to that, or I'm going to give myself 6 months, my main focus is my marriage. That's it. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll take any feedback. I'll do any course. Or man, I'm going to give myself 6 months to like
Yeah.
get better at running. Or if you just take a small period of time, what's 6 months out of 44 years of living? I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that much, but it's so significant. The amount of ground that you can take in a very short amount of time and have a lasting impact really is significant. And so, yeah, I mean, casting vision, I think, is the biggest piece for us. Being able to cast vision and then deliver exactly what we're promising.
Yeah.
And that's, there's a million different ways to cast vision. I mean, you could do it through marketing, you can do it through a shooting school, through an event, you can do it on a podcast like we're doing here.
Yeah.
But one way or another, we have to cast vision in a way where people put themselves in the storyline and go like, yeah, no, that could be me. I could be the next Byron Crisp, who's a friend of mine who joined BraveCo. He was losing everything. His wife was about to leave him, and he completely transformed his life. A year's time, he is not the same man. He leads groups. He's been with us 3 years. Or Ahab Al-Hindi, who, I mean, came to one of our shooting schools and lost 100 pounds after. And like, we're not a weight loss pro. Like, we don't teach one thing on weight loss. We just help guys get well.
Yeah.
And so, after that, he lost 100 pounds. He went through our Foundations of Masculinity course. He completely revamped his life and is like, so it's casting vision though, it's being able to put a man in the storyline and go like, man, what would my life be if I gave myself 6 months to that? And you're doing the same thing. Like, what would your life be if you took care of your body
Yeah.
and you were a steward of it and you treated every day as if it was going to matter for your future? And what if you invested today? What if every day was an investment towards a better, healthier body, soul, and spirit? If you did that, you're guaranteed to not regret the way that you're living.
Yeah. It makes me think of, I heard somebody talking once about the importance of, if you have a goal that you think you can achieve, you automatically have a relative time horizon that you think would be fitting for that goal. So like, say I want to get fit, right? I want to get fit in like a month. Everyone thinks it's so like, I can just
Yeah.
do it. I'll just do it. But it's like, okay, that's probably not realistic. Like, would you still do that if you had to extend the time horizon to a year? Like, would you still be consistent in the little things that you're doing to be fit and to be healthy? Like, would you still be that invested in it? And I think a lot about vessel, like within that approach of, hey, like what I'm doing today, like, does it bring you passion? Does it bring you joy? It's like, great. Okay. Like, if you're going to start something, don't look at it with such a short time frame, but
Yeah.
extend that horizon and be like, hey, I want to continue to do this consistently. And like, the consistency aspect of it is what's really radical, right? Everybody wants growth, but nobody wants to do what it takes to get growth. And
Yeah.
that's to be consistent, that's to be disciplined, the things that no one likes. But when you put the work in each and every day and you extend your time horizon, like, you're bound to be successful and you're bound to grow. I'm like, that's the most important thing.
It's true, man. And listen, I'm super proud of you and really excited for what you're doing and what you're pouring yourself into. And it would be fun to circle back in 2 years and to go, okay, what did you learn? Where are you at? How are you growing? Because to me, it's not about vessel. It's about you pouring yourself into like your full self into, I've been given this life and I'm going to do whatever it takes to maximize the time that I've been given, what God's given me. And I'm sure that's
Yeah.
going to take you way beyond vessel. It's going to take you, into your marriage, and it's going to take you into other ventures. But Graham, I'm super proud of you, man. You're such a great man, and it's really inspiring to look at you. And I just want to challenge the other men that are watching this. Like, no matter how old you are, I really love how you're looking at your years. Is I'm going to take one thing every single year that I can invest in. It'd be a major investment, and that would add value to my life. Man, I can't even tell you, like, if we all took a piece of that in our life. Maybe it's your marriage, maybe it's a business, maybe it's a challenge, a venture challenge, something that actually costs you though, something that you actually have to like invest, time, effort, energy, that type of thing. I think it would be massive. So guys, I'd love for you to think about that. If you're driving right now, if you're whatever, just pause the podcast and think through, like, what would that one thing be for me this year? We've got the new year coming, new year, new you, whatever. But it's a great time. It really is a great time to stop and to think through, like, what's one thing, what's a worthy investment for my life? And then what's my first step into actually taking action in that piece? Graham, thank you so much, man, for coming
Hey,
on here, for sharing your story. And I really love what you're doing.
hey, thank you, Jason. Honored to be here and grateful for the conversation. So look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, man. Thank you. BraveCo men, have an incredible week. We will see you next week on the BraveCo podcast. Hey, BraveCo men. Hopefully you loved this week's episode. Listen, if you have not subscribed to our podcast, you are already behind. Go ahead and click right here to subscribe to our podcast. And if you have not watched last week's episode, you can click right here and watch last week's episode. And listen, if you want to upgrade your wardrobe, you can check out some of our new hats that we have in stock and all our other swag. Go to braveco.org and you can look at our store there. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.